going to turn it over to Bryce North.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And good afternoon to really everyone. So thanks for taking the time to join the call today, obviously to talk through this, and thanks to Mike and really the whole KCMA for putting this together and sponsoring it. So, today's topic, I'm really excited to talk about it because it's really kind of the starting point of where we're headed in the industry from a technology standpoint. And I'm hopeful that this is really the tip of the spear or the start of the initial conversation, and that we can really broaden this and deep dive one-on-one, individually with each of you going forward on how we best support you all in getting to this, cloud-based content, because that really is the next generation of our technology. So before I jump into this, I did want to just mention, I do have one other colleague of mine with me, Nadir, which I'm sure many of you have worked with Nadir in the past. He's been with 2020 for quite some time. So he is going to be collecting any questions that do come in, and we're going to review them in a Q&A session at the end of kind of the content portion. So I'm going to take us through probably the first 30 minutes or so of going through really what the cloud-based content is and what the future of 2020 looks like. We want this to be as much of a discussion as you really can make a webinar be. So feel free to use the Q&A feature within here and submit your questions. That way Nadir can touch off on those as soon as we get to that portion. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my video here. That way you don't have to stare at me for the next 20 minutes. And we're going to go ahead and dive in here. So let's get started. All right. So before we just jump straight into the discussion about cloud-based content, I wanted to throw out a statistic to think about throughout this conversation. And that is 90+% of kitchen and bath design professionals in North America today are using our technology to drive those sales for you all as a manufacturer. And that kind of just speaks to the importance of the topic today and the fact that the data behind that is really the critical glue that holds all of that together and empowers the sales by those designers to the end consumer. And so today we're here to talk about the data and what the future looks like. Because 18 months from now, we will look back and our goal is to have replaced all existing manufacturer data from file-based content to this new cloud-based content. So we obviously need your partnership to make sure that we get that right and we continue to give designers the data that they need to sell. And so just a quick introduction on my end. If any of you were involved in the KCMA webinar back in December, I did present on CompuSoft then, but to everyone else, it's a pleasure to meet you all, and I'm sure that we'll be connecting going forward and working together quite a bit. So I've been involved in the kitchen and bath industry since 2008, and I've predominantly spent the last 10 years in various sales and marketing roles with the largest cabinet manufacturer here in North America, where I work very closely with product and marketing and manufacturing, but ultimately it was spent in the frontline position working with dealers and builders and retail designers to help them sell to the end consumer. So I certainly come into this with very much a kitchen manufacturer mindset. And so hopefully that can help all of us as we go forward and continue to work together. So rewind kind of the last 12 months, I was working on the CompuSoft side of the business. But obviously going forward, we have an extremely bright future ahead because as many of you likely heard in Q4 of 2021, CompuSoft in 2020 actually merged together to become one new company. And so, really when you think about this, 2020 and CompuSoft on their own were really the golden standard when it comes to kitchen design software for the past 30 years. And so the new combined organization now has, over 70 years of industry experience. CompuSoft was primarily in the European, call it EMEA and APAC regions, where 2020 predominantly, obviously, as you all know, the main market was North and South America. And so together, we now have a geographic footprint that reaches the globe and brings together a lot of different tools, different applications, and a lot of innovations that we can help push out to customers all around the world. And so looking ahead, we now have over 40 offices in 23 different countries, just over 2,000 employees. So really overnight, we've doubled our footprint, doubled our technology, and there's a lot of transitions that will happen, and a lot of exciting things are going on to bring the best products to all of our customers going forward. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on kind of the R&D side, because I think that is an extremely important point that we are heavily focused on remaining the industry leader in the space. And we dedicate almost a quarter of our entire annual budget to research and development, to making sure that we have the latest and greatest tools to continue to serve you all. So I just wanted to provide, a very brief kind of company update before we dive in, because I know there's been so much news and change over the last 6 months, and we're really excited about what the future looks like as we move towards a platform that reaches every segment really across the globe. And so now as we start to transition into that cloud conversation, I wanted to bring up this statistic by Gartner because I think it just speaks to kind of the world around us right now. Cloud-based solutions are dominating every industry out there. And by 2025, 85% of pretty much everything around us is going to have kind of that cloud first mentality. And we're no different, 2020 is no different. So we're positioning ourselves now for the next generation of technology. So some brief examples that I'll just give is, I'm sure if you went to go listen to music, you're probably not going to grab a CD, stick it in a CD player or your car. I'm sure you're likely streaming through Spotify or Amazon Music or iTunes. Same thing with Redbox versus Netflix, or a physical map versus Google Maps. I mean, there's so much that's happening around us that's already made that shift. And today, your file-based manufacturer catalog is very much equivalent to that CD. That's having to be imported into every single design workstation. We're going forward through a cloud-based mentality. That data structure can be stored in the cloud and used throughout everything that we do. And so that kind of takes me to what is 2020 cloud? And really the future is this cloud platform. And so it's what's going to empower you as a manufacturer to make changes almost instantaneously, but also still empower the designer to have accurate catalogs with better and more robust content to just help streamline that sales cycle. And I think you're going to hear me say that quite a bit today, is streamlining the process, streamlining the sales cycle. And that's because the kitchen sales process kitchen and bath sales process is so complex, and end consumers do it so few times in their life that there's a lot of decisions to be made. Not each room is alike. Not every scenario is alike. So it's a very complex sales process, and our goal is to help the designer, to help you all as a manufacturer, to navigate that process and make it a better experience for all. And so the 2020 cloud is really at the heart of that. And this next slide kind of shows an infographic that speaks to what the 2020 cloud really is. And we kind of explain it as the universal format that connects the right content to the right people at the right time. So really think of 2020 cloud as the center of the wheel or the brain behind every application, because the 2020 cloud is the data itself that drives every tool to inspire the consumer to purchase, and then for manufacturers to actually fulfill the order. So, when you look at that consumer journey, I'm sure most of them, start either at Ideal Spaces with that, online engagement or lead generation, but then eventually they find their way into Design Live through that professional design tool. And then I'm sure a lot of you on the call are likely using 2020 Insight for your your ERP and manufacturing solution. And then an exciting piece that we'll talk about a little bit later is the Infolytics, which I think is a piece that we're not leveraging as much today, but going forward, the cloud is going to enable us to provide you all a lot of data, which is going to help everybody make smarter decisions. So you can kind of see here from this chart, 2020 cloud is really the heartbeat of the entire operation. And so if we kind of take a step back before we explain, all the bells and whistles and the exciting, stuff about the cloud, I want to just talk through the current state of file-based catalogs. And this is probably a little bit of an overwhelming statistic for some, is that, if you think about this, 40% of all designers out there that are putting together a kitchen right now are working in an out-of-date catalog. And so we know that causes, a slew of issues, on the back end of things. And to be honest, file-based catalogs are a bit clumsy when you compare them to cloud data. And so I wanted to break this out by segment here and talk through what are some of the issues that you all face every day because of those file-based catalogs. Because we're also going to address how moving forward, we're going to help simplify that and make that much a better experience. So from a manufacturer standpoint, obviously out-of-date catalogs, are an issue. And from the moment that you publish a brand new catalog, they're almost instantaneously out of date because somebody points out something or something was left out or a price increase should have happened. And so that then triggers that lengthy update schedule to publish a new one again. Another issue that pops up is file-based catalogs require individual users, the actual designers, to physically update their catalog version. So even if a new one is pushed out, it doesn't necessarily make sure that all of the individual users are using that newly published catalog. Another issue is that it requires manufacturers to duplicate catalogs and provide unique versions, whether that's for regionality or whether that's because you want to, maybe mix door styles and finishes in the same design. And then at the end of the day, data is really a one-way street today. So manufacturers don't necessarily receive anything at all about the usage of what's actually being designed. It's kind of just a one-way street. You only have visibility into what's being sold and not necessarily what's being designed. So the other segment I wanted to look at here is the dealer designer community. We'll kind of lump them into one. Obviously, out-of-date catalogs is an issue for everybody. It creates kind of a frustrated and lengthy ordering process for these users. And also, no two catalogs are alike. What we found out through the COVID period, and I'm sure a lot of you did as well as you were working through, a lot of those supply chain and lead time issues, is that dealers were adding more and more brands to their offering in order to help absorb some of that lead time. And so, more than ever, they're starting to realize that these catalogs aren't alike, and every brand and every manufacturer is a little bit unique. Where going forward, hopefully we can streamline this a bit and create a much better end user experience when it comes to Design Live. The other thing is today, the file-based catalogs can, because of how they're structured and built, can allow some invalid selections to occur. And then lastly, again, it kind of speaks to no KPI visibility. So they don't really have that business information and those analytics that they could, maybe have going forward. So things like, what is a designer's average design time, or what have they spent, in designing a specific kitchen? What's their average sale look like? What's their average margin and their close rate? And what are the popular selections that they seem to be designing with often? Things like this. It's all this data that we really don't capture at all today and provide back to the dealer or designer. And then lastly, from a consumer standpoint, obviously out of date catalogs create an issue for all of us, but it can really delay that sales process. And I'm going to mainly focus in on the last bullet point here, which is the reverse buyer's remorse. And this may kind of showcase a little bit of my manufacturing background kind of coming through here, but one statistic that I've followed very closely over the course of my career comes from RICKI, which is the Research Institute for Cooking and Kitchen Intelligence, and they're a market research agency that will provide market feedback and data and surveys, and they always put out this statistic, which is important for manufacturers to understand, because 6 months after a consumer finishes their kitchen remodel or kitchen purchase, they survey those consumers, and 48% of those consumers wish they would have spent more money on their kitchen purchase, which is music to a manufacturer's ears. But for us, it helps us know that we're not necessarily providing the right content to the dealer or the designer to help sell the value of the manufacturer's catalog. So going forward with cloud-based content, we're going to be able to provide a much more robust content offering for that designer to hopefully help better sell the value of what the consumer wants, and hopefully the consumer isn't nitpicking cost out of the quote at the end, and taking out those internal items, or maybe switching from walnut or cherry to maple or painted product to laminate, to save cost. Those are the types of things that consumers are pulling out, and is driving up that reverse buyer's remorse. So our goal is that through this cloud-based content, that robust catalog is going to help you all sell the value of your individual brands even more. So what does the next generation of cloud content look like? Really, it's all about enabling manufacturers in a multitude of different ways. So the first one being, we are developing and authoring and publishing tool so that you will eventually be able to push out the most up-to-date catalog really in a lifetime fashion. So this is going to significantly help those clean order rates, as it won't rely on individuals to actually make those updates. You can push those updates out live. The other part of that being the pricing is going to be managed separately. So today that is directly tied to the catalog. We're going forward. If you needed to push out a price increase or change, pricing on a certain item, you could fix that and push that out without having to do an overall catalog update. Likewise, maybe you use this pricing functionality to drive, regional promotion activity. All of these things will be possible going forward. Number two, it's all about the flexibility. So we're going to align the data to speak more directly to existing systems that are out there and really help eliminate a lot of the manual order entry that's going on today. So again, just kind of cleaning up that overall process. And then number three being the advanced analytics. This is what I am, certainly most excited about. Data is king, and 2020 design is no longer going to be that one-way street. You all as manufacturers will be able to understand your user base and your designers better than you ever have before, whether that's through design pipelines for better forecasting, or understanding what are the most popular door styles, finishes, SKUs, modifications, etc. You'll have access and visibility into all of that, and not necessarily just the items that are being sold, because obviously you can see that today through your own data, but maybe those items that are being designed with, but then pulled out of the design and not sold, and maybe being able to dig into why that is. And so there's just a lot of data that's going to be available out there to help you all as manufacturers make smarter decisions and help you all sell more at the end of the day. And then lastly, the universal data source. So our goal is for the cloud-based content not to just be a content structure that's used by 2020, but we want it to be open enough to where this can integrate with really any third-party application, whether that's a third-party ERP system, or let's say QuickBooks, or AutoCAD, or any other really tool that's out there that you're looking to integrate into. We don't want this data to cause a roadblock in the system. We want it to be that heartbeat that works for really any process. We want it to be that one source of truth that you can rely on and leverage and use in any unique business situation. And so the next thing I want to talk about as we continue down this conversation is really the real life changes. So showing you all examples of the older, file-based way versus what is the new cloud-based method going to look like. So first thing being the platform itself is going to be changing. So most of you are already probably familiar or converted to Design Live. However, file-based catalogs are consumed through 2020 Design. We're moving forward. The cloud-based content will only be able to be consumed via 2020 Design Live. And the good news there is 87% of our entire user base is already converted from 2020 Design to 2020 Design Live. So that system is already in place to be able to read your cloud-based content. The second one here being that 2020 Cloud can be that one source of truth. I spoke to that on the last slide there a little bit, but again, our goal is for that to be utilized across every application so that it can help, for lead generation, consumer engagement online, designing, ordering, and that entire manufacturing process. We want that format to be able to be used across, really all 70 of our applications that I mentioned. The third point here being that you'll no longer have to duplicate catalogs just to design in multiple doors and finishes. Currently, the global styles are selected based off of the design itself, and so it minimizes you to only be able to choose, a limited amount of doors and finishes in one design. We're going forward, those selections are going to be stored on an individual item basis rather than the entire design. So there will not be a limitation when it comes to the number of finishes that you can design with. As a manufacturer, I'm sure you all are already, well aware that, 2, 3, 4 color tone kitchens are becoming really the norm in today's world. And so this will be an enhancement that maybe we all don't recognize so much, as the technology company and as a manufacturer, but the everyday designer, this will be a huge benefit for them and make their lives a whole lot easier. Then the fourth point being, today some of those invalid selections are allowed because of how the data is actually structured, where going forward, the cloud catalog is going to allow smart integrations that block those invalid selections. So again, helping to increase those clean order rates from dealer to manufacturer. And then in regards to pricing, throughout the last 2 years, we've seen, the impact that supply chain can have in terms of pricing and needing to push out price updates. And again, the new 2020 cloud will allow real-time pricing updates that can be pushed nationally or regionally in live time. So if you have, certain pricing for, the Northeast or the West region, you can set that individually rather than needing to duplicate catalogs. And so this could also, support promotional events if that's how you wanted to utilize it as well. Because this pricing is not tied to the, the individual catalog itself, you can make those adjustments live and on the fly. And then from a customization standpoint, not everyone here on the call, I'm sure, is a custom manufacturer, but for those of you that are, you know how complex and complicated it is today when it comes to those really unique and custom items. And so moving forward, custom items are going to be easier to price than ever before, and just a lot more flexible when it comes to getting those custom items over to you as a manufacturer. And then lastly, the validation of an order into the production system. Today, an order must be validated, for the entire order before it can be pushed into production. We're going forward, each line item can be individually validated so that it saves quite a bit of time. So all of these examples add significant flexibility for you all as a manufacturer and for the dealers out there and the designers out there that are actually designing and quoting these kitchens. So ultimately, this is all going to funnel down to the end consumer in a powerful way, and again, just help streamline this very complex sales process. So that kind of takes us to, well, why make the change? Hopefully, these last couple of slides here help you to understand real life scenarios of how this transition is going to benefit really everybody involved. But just to kind of sum it up, obviously the accelerated time to market, you'll be able to significantly decrease the amount of time it takes to publish a new catalog update and get that out to your markets or regions, which will honestly help you all capitalize on the latest consumer trends. You can update pricing as need be. Again, utilize the pricing piece for promotional events, whatever that may be. We're just going to help get the right content out to the right people in a quicker fashion. And then from an access standpoint, obviously you have the ability to have an open catalog that all designers can have access to. But from a restricted standpoint, going forward, through the cloud, there is going to be a cloud administrator for each account, and that administrator will just get the notification through 2020 Design Live users, and you'll be able to very easily, give permission or deny access to your individual catalog. So it'll really streamline that process. And then lastly here, the analytics side. Again, I think, data is really king. It's such a powerful tool to help you all as manufacturers be able to make different, strategy decisions. And so going forward, we'll be able to track, catalog usage and review those trends and identify, what products are used in designs and what types of designs are we seeing out there most often, and really just identify, and focus on sales efforts that are going to help you all get, the most ROI out of your individual catalogs or your individual brands. And you'll just have that visibility, unlike anything you've ever had before. So I wanted to give kind of a sneak peek a little bit here on the Infolytics and analytics side. This piece is really still in development and is being tested. But again, it's what I'm most excited about. And the analytics are not just going to be, about the designer, but about the products as well. So if you think about it from a user perspective, we should be able to see the individual designers, the sessions, the types of designs that they're creating, the number of items that are in each design, the average price of each design, and really just the entire design life cycle from the day that new design or project is opened up until the day that that's sold, quoted, sold, and sent to manufacturer. We should be able to capture many data points throughout that entire, process, which will then be funneled back in a analytical or Infolytics type of way, like you see here on the screen, that can really be analyzed easily to help you all, make your decisions going forward. And so when we think about the future of the cloud-based content, what this should really do is kind of unlock the potential that's out there. A new organization that now has over 70 technology products to pull from and leverage and provide to you all. And there is just a lot of possibility, out there for all of us to get, your brands out to the right people in the right areas where you want to, do business, and have that one source of data be the seamless, the seamless piece that ties into every single platform that's out there. And that's really our goal going forward, is to expand your all's reach and to expand, your all's possibility through our technology. And so we'll kind of leave it with how can you get involved? And it's really never too early to at least start the conversation. You can reach out to this generic email that Nadir and I have access to, or just reach out to Nadir or myself, and we'd be happy to start the conversation. I will say, just as a reminder, our goal is that within the next 18 months, all catalogs are converted. Today, 87% of all users are already on 2020 Design Live, so they have the ability to consume cloud-based content. And so, as we think about helping you all to get your catalogs over to the cloud, that is something that we would do initially at 2020. We would look at the catalogs, and we would provide a timeline and a scope of work on what it would take to convert that from file-based to the cloud. Long term going forward, we are also, as we make this transition, we are also developing authoring tools that will allow you as a manufacturer to decide if you want 2020 to make your updates, or if you would rather, as an example, hire somebody internally to do all of those authoring updates, or if you're using a third-party content creator today, you could continue to use them as well going forward. So initially, we would need to do the conversion from file-based to cloud-based. However, going forward, we're going to have the authoring tools that will enable you as a manufacturer to make the decision as to how exactly you want to do that. So again, reach out to Nadir and myself. We'd be happy to continue the conversation and get you in the right path, so that as we make this migration and as designers are on Design Live, they continue to have access to your catalogs and the data that they need to sell. So with that, I'm actually going to, bring back Nadir here into the conversation, and we will kick off the Q&A here. Continue this conversation, and we'll start to look through the chat box here to see what all has come through. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nadir. Thank you all for, again, joining today. I hope that these last handful of slides here, helped you all understand what the future of 2020 looks like and what the future of this cloud-based content looks like. I'm extremely excited about it. And I have no doubt that the data that we're all going to be able to pull from this is going to be powerful in helping all of us. So with that, Nadir, I'll turn it over to you and we can start working through the Q&A. So thank you all.
Sure. Thank you, Bryce. Great presentation. So hi, everyone. So for those who don't know me, I'm Nadir, account manager at 2020. I've been working with manufacturers for the past 7 years to assist with content development. And I hope you're all very excited to get your catalog published through 2020 Cloud, so you and your dealers could take advantage of all the benefits Bryce just mentioned. So at this point, we are going to review a few of the questions that came over throughout the presentation. So thank you everyone who sent some in. You can still type any questions through the chat. I know we only have a handful of minutes, so if we are unable to get all of them, we will be sure to reach out afterwards via email with all the questions answered. We'll start with the first one. The first question was, are there additional costs for our customers to access the 2020 Cloud? So the short answer is no. So if your customers are on support with their 2020 license, they simply need to migrate their current 2020 design license to the new Design Live subscription. So basically we'll grandfather the subscription costs at their usual maintenance and support rate. And like Bryce mentioned, we already have about 80% of active users migrated to 2020 Design Live, so only a few will need to go through this process. Let's check out our questions. So can I make my catalog available only to authorized dealers? Yes, absolutely. So if you decide to make your catalog restricted, it will be grayed out when you'll go in 2020 design, and your dealers will simply need to click on request access and you will receive an alert so you can deny or grant access to the catalog. So this will be managed through an admin portal called Content Studio, and you'll be able at any time to go there, turn off access to the catalog. And this is also the place where you'll be able to get access to analytics. So I have another question here. How often can we make updates to the catalogs? So actually, yeah, you can make updates as often as you want. This is one of the benefits coming with the cloud. So today, if you are publishing a file base, you're probably compiling all the updates and issues and then releasing the catalog once every 6 months or once a year. But with the cloud, you can make daily updates if you want to, because the designers won't need to download anything. You can make a change and push it live to all dealers, so they will be always using the latest version of the catalog. So again, if you have other questions, feel free to type them in the chat. So I have one last here. For now, what is the cost to make our catalogs available on cloud? So there are actually two parts to this. So the first part is depending on how your catalog is currently set up. So there will be some efforts to build the catalog or convert the catalog in the new format. And the best is to reach out to Bryce or myself so we can evaluate the efforts needed to provide an estimation to bring your catalog through this new cloud format. And the second part is the subscription. So there's a subscription fee to publish your catalog through the cloud, get access to this admin portal where you will be able to manage who has access to the data and get all the analytics. And we have different subscription levels. So that will depend also on if you want your catalog to be restricted, if you want to get access to advanced analytics, if you want to author the catalog yourself, because there will be an authoring module as well. And again, Bryce and I will be happy to discuss that with you. So another question I see here, is this only for existing 2020 customers? So 2020 Cloud will be consumed initially with 2020 design, but this data could be accessed by any third-party application. It will reside by itself in a cloud server. So if you have other application that needs to get access to this same catalog, you'll be able to pull out this information through an API. Another question I see here is, what percentage of your customers are manufacturers? So for 2020 Cloud, so it's a whole ecosystem. We have 45,000 active users using 2020 Design, and of course manufacturers are providing catalogs to these designers and dealers. So we have more than 500 catalogs today that we are publishing through the cloud. So in the next 12 to 18 months, all the catalogs will be converted to the cloud format. I don't see any other questions.
One more here that came through, Nadir. What do you think the cost to manufacturers is of having an out-of-date catalog? I know that one statistic that we found that 40% of designers are designing in an out-of-date catalog. Do you have any of that data?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because especially today with the pricing changing, very frequently, having an out-of-date catalog will mean that your dealers will sell with not the latest products, not the latest pricing, and also will allow some invalid orders. So we can get back to you with the exact, a better statistic on that. But definitely, if you think about it, having the latest and greatest catalog out there, always up to date, will definitely avoid all these errors.
Yeah, I think more importantly, just to piggyback on that, it's tough to drill down to an exact dollar figure due to the every situation is different, but just the back and forth that's then required between the designer and the manufacturer to get that clean order over, I'd say is your biggest cost in not having the most up to date.
Exactly.
All right. And any others? I think that's all that we have so far.
Yeah. So any other questions that come in, or feel free to send that through the chat or by email, and we'll make sure to answer these questions.
Awesome. Well, I guess in just kind of closing it up here, if there's no other questions, or if we see one come in, we can address it. Again, just thank you to everybody for jumping on the call today and joining Nadir and I to talk through this. There's a lot of transformation going on right now to get this kind of new technology to the market. Again, the dealers are kind of already on that Design Live platform. So now it's really converting a lot of these catalogs so that those dealers can continue to use the manufacturers, that they like designing with. So, feel free to reach out to us. Nadir and I can also follow up with each of you, and we can dig into this more kind of one-on-one, just to start, the planning process for what it's going to take to get there. Because again, it's a big project for everybody. So it's good to